Welcome back to Animator Artist Live. So recently we had to create a project for a large client which included a hummingbird. So I'm going to show you what I've learned on how to rig a bird with advanced skeleton. Now it could be a hummingbird, could be an eagle, could be any bird. This will work no matter what. I'm going to take you through the process from start to finish. We're going to go over joint placement, good deformations, and we're going to create some really nice controls on the backs of the feathers on the wings to be able to fine control them, the tail, and we're even going to go through and add custom controllers so we can control things like the tummy and how much fat moves. So without further ado, let's get on with part one. So before we actually rig this hummingbird with advanced skeleton, we need to actually clean up and optimize the geometry, make sure it works well so that we avoid errors down the line, especially in advanced skeleton with the facial rig. It can throw up some errors. I get a lot of questions where sometimes, oh, my rig's not working, but it hasn't been run through the cleanup tools, or it might not be exactly symmetrical, something like that. So we have to go through this to avoid glitches and errors later on. It's just save us a big headache. So what I'm going to do is select the mesh. This is my hummingbird mesh. I'm going to hide the rest of it by just going show, isolate, select, and view selected. So it just only shows what we have selected. And then we're going to just check that there's no extra polygons, edges missing, things like that. So the best way to do that is just select the mesh and then go up to mesh and then clean up and go to the options. Now over here, I'm just going to reset this to the default settings just so in case it's the first time you've opened it. You've got clean up matching polygons and select matching polygons. So with the cleanup, what it will do is it will attempt to actually clean up and fix the errors for you. I wouldn't recommend using that because you don't know where it's going to make the cuts. It might not be symmetrical, and it's just I don't think it can be trusted, especially when you're rigging the character. So what we do is we put this on select matching polygons, and this will show us any errors that we can manually fix. And then I'm going to select faces with more than 4 sides. That's all I want to check for at the moment. And then I'm just going to click apply or clean up. If you click clean up, it will just get rid of the window. If you click apply, the window will stay. So if you click apply, you can see it's selected nothing. It's just deselected it, and you've got result down here. That means that there's no errors in this mesh. Now let me just go in and sort of maybe make a mistake on purpose. Let's say remove this edge from here. So you can see we've got an edge, a polygon with more than 4 sides here. Okay, I'm going to go back to object mode, select the main mesh, and I'm going to run that again and watch. There you go, it selects the polygon for you. I'm going to hit the F key to zoom in on it so we can scroll around, and then you can manually fix that. Just put in a cut and then run it again, okay? But that needs to be done. So I'm just going to undo that to get my edge back. So that's really important. Just make sure that your mesh is clean and free from areas. You can check for other stuff as well if you want non-manifold geometry, but the more than 4 sides, you'll be surprised how often you accidentally notice maybe sort of right in the eye or something you might have a 5-sided polygon. It's really common, and it happens all the time. So now I'm going to go back to object mode, and then we need to run this through the actual advanced skeleton cleanup tools. So let's open advanced skeleton. I've got this in a shelf here, and I'm going to click it and open it here, and I've got it docked down the side so we can see it. I do normally use multiple screens, but I've docked it down the side for you here. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to get rid of this because we've done the cleanup there. We're going to run it through the tools. The first one is the model clean. So let's just unhide everything first. Show, isolate selected, view selected to bring everything back. Okay, so you've got all the elements there. And I'm going to click model clean, and it comes up with this message just to say create a top level group called Geo. And this is what I've got. I've got a group node called Geo, and everything is in it, and it's neatly tucked away. I've got different groups for the eyes, the wings, and the tail. Now I wouldn't go and have too many nested comps, like comps within comps within comps, because it can throw up errors later. But it should be absolutely fine like this. So it's nice and neat. And once you've got that, you need this group node. So if you don't have that, you just select everything you've got and either press Control G and group it together, or select all your groups if you want to keep them. Because if I selected all of these and grouped it, it would ungroup all these. Okay, so you need to select them in the outliner, what you want, press Control G and group it and call it Geo. It's as simple as that. Once you've got that, you don't need to select anything. You just hit the clean button. And what it does, it actually exports everything as an OBJ and imports everything back in. And that actually strips everything of bad sort of unknown nodes and things like that. And also it puts everything, I'm going to hit the spacebar to go to our perspective view. It puts the origin of everything at world 0. If I hit the W key to bring up the move tool, you can see that every single piece is now at world 0. Okay, the tongue, the eyes, everything, which is what you need. So that's really important, okay? And then the final thing to do, you could do this last or before, but you must check the body is symmetrical. And you might think, oh, of course I've modeled it symmetrically, but you'll be surprised at how it does throw up errors. So what you're going to do, I'm just going to isolate this again just so we can see it. And you want to run the symmetry check, but the one in advanced skeleton. So now I've done the model clean, I'm going to do the model check. I'm going to click this button and it's going to say check for transformation values and symmetry. Now, if you've got anything wrong, it will throw up an error. So I'm just going to click this and you can see it's working it along the bottom here. See the percentage? And then it goes result, your model is symmetrical, because I know this is symmetrical because we've fixed it all already. If you get an error, you will need to fix it. The best way to do this is go, say like, it might say just select a couple vertices. It might throw up an error and say, just this bit here is not symmetrical. So what you do is you hit spacebar, go to your front view, and what you would do is, I'm just going to go to a wireframe. You can either select everything on one side or just the area. Don't select your vertices down the middle. Now it's your job to make sure that all your center verts, you will need this exactly center all the way down the line. Okay, so say if you've selected this area that you think is wrong, you've selected that all the way through. I now like to go back out to perspective view. And now I run the symmetry command, which is in Maya. So I'm going to go under edit mesh. You've got symmetrize. If you click this, it will say now please select an edge for symmetry. And obviously you pick the center one, you select it, and there you go. It actually run the symmetry. Obviously mine's already dead symmetrical, so it doesn't matter. But even if it's minuscule, it will put that into it will symmetrize that. So once you've done that, then you can go back, run the symmetry tool again, keep going until you get this model is symmetrical. Do not move on unless you've got 100% symmetrical model. It's very important. You know, if you think, oh, it's going to be fine, don't do it. Because you'll get to the face, you might have a more complicated face than this, it'll throw up errors and you'll have to start again. So just don't do it. It just saves you such a headache down the line. Keep it nice and clean, and then that's it. It seems a bit long-winded, but we are now, once you get used to it, it's really quick. It's like a 2-minute job. Just check, symmetrize, done. Okay, so now that we have the mesh, we can bring everything back, show, isolate selected, view selected, and now we've got our model. And now save that as model clean, whatever you want. We're nice and good to go, and now we can start rigging. Quick note, what about non-symmetrical characters, I hear you ask? What about characters and creatures that might have 2 arms on one side and 4 arms on the other? Yes, Advanced Skeleton can rig asymmetrical characters. In fact, it has its own system. If I scroll down to here, you've got create non-symmetry joints. If I click the help file, you can see here. Okay, so yes, you can do non-symmetrical characters, but when I am symmetrizing the mesh, so say like you had 2 arms on one side and 4 on the other, but the face is symmetrical, you still need to make sure the vertices and polygons are symmetrical, so the process is the same. Now you can do asymmetrical faces as well, that's in the facial setup, but that's a different story altogether. But generally speaking, you still need to symmetrize everything, apart from if it's an obvious asymmetrical limb and things like that. Obviously you wouldn't symmetrize it. Okay, I've got a brand new fresh scene, and now we're going to bring in our geometry. Now it's really important the way you bring in this geometry. Do not go file, import. What we're going to do is we're going to reference in it. If you don't know what referencing in is, instead of when you import in a file, it just stays in there and you don't have any access to it outside. Well, when you reference, the actual file is still held outside, so you can make changes to that file. So when we're rigging and you want to make model changes, you can then make changes to the model in the actual model file and then bring it back in, okay? So we're going to go, there's a few different ways to reference stuff in. You can go File, and then you can go Create Reference, and it just brings it up and you choose what you want. You've also got your file and your reference editor here. So then this is shows all the references in the scene where you can change the namespace, and if you click this little button here, it's the same as opening it up. And then you've got the advanced skeleton reference button, which adds some automatic display layers for you. So let's click reference, and then we're going to choose our file. We're going to go to our model file. So I'm going to bring in, and if there's nothing here, you might think, oh, where is it? Well, I've saved mine as a .ma file, and this is showing just .mb, my binary files. So you can either go show all files, like all myoscenes or myasci. I'm just going to go myoscenes to show everything. And then there's my model. I'm going to click it, and I'm just going to use the default settings and reference. Okay, so now you can see what it's done is it's brought in the file which it's referenced. So it doesn't live in this file, it lives outside in the same model file. So over here, it's created a display layer for us. I can turn that on and off, and it's automatically templated it. If I click this, it's now gone to R, which is locked. I can't select it or unselect it, this button here, and now you can select it. So the reason why they do that is so that you can add your joints in without actually interrupting or touching any of the file. Now I prefer to work in a little bit different way, and I'll show you that in a minute, but we'll start working away. So what I want to do, first of all, you might want to choose a different background. You can use the quick key Alt-B, and you can have the blue, the black, the sort of darker grey or light grey. So I'm just going to leave it as light grey for now, so it's just sort of easy to see what we're doing. For me, that's my preference. Okay, so now we're going to open up our advanced skeleton. If you haven't got it opened up, just click the little A button from your advanced skeleton shelf, and it just loads it. And what I've done is I've docked it all down the side, okay? So we've done our model preparation. I'm just going to close that one down for now. And we're going to start with bringing in a template. So it already has a bird set up for us. So over here, if you go down to body and then open up the fit, you've got a list of different templates. You've got the biped bendy, the game, the gorilla, the horse, fish, and as you can see, there is a bird one that's already built in for us. You can click the help file here, and you can just get, Advanced Skeleton has all these different help buttons, and you can always look up different stuff if you're not quite sure what it does. So once you've got the bird selected, just click import, and then your template comes in. You can see it's a little bit smaller than what we've got. I'm working to sort of real world scales, even though a hummingbird is tiny anyway. So if you can see what we've got here, we've got the base movement, and then we've got the template joints, which is always on screen left, because then it mirrors the screen right. So what you do from here basically is start fitting the joints, the same as a biped, and we're going to just start by scaling it up. So I hit the R key, and we'll just scale it up to sort of get a good sort of general position. And what I like to do is work where the root or the chest is, and then start to move things around. Okay, so it's good from here to go to a 4 view. So I'm going to hit the space bar, and you've got your, your top, left, front, and side. So I like to start in the side first, and you might want to turn off the grid. I'd like to just turn this off so we can see what we're doing a bit easier. And there we go. So now we're going to scale up and down the whole template as it is, and you might want to sort of maybe fit the hip in or the root. So the root and the chest need to go into place. I like to sort of go with the root, really. The root sort of should really sit here, so that's a nice place to sort of start. The hip will be a bit higher, but we can move all of these around sort of freely. You've got the head, and then we'll ignore the wings for now, and we'll get this sorted. So scale this up and down to where you feel comfortable, and then we can start moving them around. So I'm going to hit the W key and then start selecting joints to move around. If I select the the root joint, everything moves because it's parented off the root. But if I select, say, the chest, everything from the chest onwards will go up, because this is the parent of all the children. So I can move these around. So I can also say move this joint around as well. So let's just start moving things around. I want the chest placed in the chest, and you will still sort of you'll get used to this, whether you want it further back or further forward. What gives you better deformation? This just comes with practice, to be honest. So let's just generally move some stuff into place. So you've got a bit of a tummy here, and you've got the chest here, and you've got a sort of neck here, which I'm going to, because you want, wherever this is where the control is going to be. So imagine where you want to rotate the head from, and then you've got the head, which is the base of the head, about here, which is looking good at the moment. And I've got my tail. I'm going to move this down, and you don't have to worry about moving it accidentally in X, because you're in a side view. It just can't do it. And also the mid joints are locked. Okay, so I've got this sort of generally here. I'm just going to move the head joint up. You could do this later if you want. And then there's the eye joint, which is quickly moving to place there. Okay, so now you've got your basic joints in place. Let's move the hip forward, and now you want to move them separately. So what you can do is you can select the joint, and you can either use the D key or the insert key. It's the same, and what that does is isolates it, where you can now move that single joint freely to position that. So now I'm going to move the root into position. So imagine where you want your pelvic, where he bends from his butt outwards, really. And then I'm going to move this around here. I'm going to move the tummy a bit forward. So now, as you can see, it's deselected the isolation mode. So I select this, hit the D key or the insert again, and I can move this around freely. Careful not to rotate it. See what I accidentally did there? I was rotating it instead. So just move that into place. And now, let's move the chest over here a bit, and the neck over here. So now I'm moving them all together. So I'll hit the D key again, move this, and it's just it is quite quick after you've done it a few times. Now the hip, we want sort of up here where it rotates, and I'm going to select the ankle joint, and I want to move this all together. So I want to get out of this, and to keep it exactly in line, I'm going to use the arrow key here to move it. So because if I move it like this, I might accidentally move it too high in Y. So you just need to get used to sort of moving these things around in your view, so that it is best for you. You've got a tiny sort of heel joint here. I'm going to move that right back because we want to be able to rotate from here. Okay, so that's looking good. Now I'm going to move the tail joint up, and now I'm going to hit the E key, and I'm going to rotate this up. You can see our tail feather joints go down here. It's not long enough yet, but we'll fix that. Okay, so now I'd like to go out to and one thing as well, the thickness of your joints. It might you might like them bigger or smaller. You just simply go down to your joint size here in the advanced skeleton, or you can go up to change this from modeling to rigging menu set and go skeleton joint size, or just straight in here you can use the advanced skeleton slide in. You can see they get up or bigger. I like to type in an exact value, so like 0.1 would be really small, or say 0.05 is pretty good. I think that's what we're sort of set to default here. If you're working on a bigger character, they might be too small, so you just need to make them bigger. And I do go up and down. So say that you're doing fingers on a character, I'll shrink these right down so you can see where the metacarpals and things like that are. Okay, so I'm going to hit the space bar and go out to a perspective view, and you can see it's sort of in a good position already. Now, I was saying at the moment earlier on, you have this as a template and it's wireframe. You might like that. I prefer to work a different way. I'm going to show you this. So I'm just going to untemplate this, and I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to hit this little button here, and what that means is it means X-ray joints. So now it'll always show the joints even though the model's shown. So I've got the R key selected, so I can't select the geometry, but I can see my joints, and this applies to every view. So if I select here, you have to set it in every view. So now if I wanted to go to a side view, I would just select X-ray joints, and you can switch back as well. So I can just quickly go to here and I'm back again. Okay, or you can hit the 4 key to go to wireframe. Okay, and then 5 to shaded, and then 6 obviously texture. We don't have textures at the moment. So now I'm going to go to my perspective view, and as you can see, the legs need moving out. So I'm just going to select the leg joint, and you can even move that out in perspective view, or you might want to jump to a front view. So I sort of jump in and out all the time, really. Get rid of the grid. You can hit 4 for wireframe, or just stay where you are and just simply hit the W key and just move this out. I need my X-ray on again, so that's a good position. But I tend to sort of work in perspective view once you get a bit used to it. Just be careful you don't get thrown off. Okay, so let's have a look at this, how this is going. So the base joints are looking pretty good, and I'm going to now just extend the feather joint. At the moment, you can see I'm working in world orient. So if I move this, it's going to move out this way. I want it to go into local mode. So I'm going to hold down the W key and then click and then just go to object. And you can see it switched. And now I can just move it in the same angle as the joint rotation. Okay, so it's good to sort of work in local mode sometimes. So I might say slip back here to world to move this in, and then I might go back to here, hold down the W key, go to object and move it down and then move it out or something like that. And you can see I cannot see the polygons at the moment, so you might want to see those as well. So you would just simply select up here, it means wireframe on shaded. And if you've got it locked down here, they will be black and then they'll go to blue. Okay, so sometimes I do need to see the polygons where they are, and sometimes I just turn it off. Okay, so let's have a look, see how this is going. I'm going to turn off wireframe on shaded. Sometimes it gets a little bit in the way. I'm just looking at the body at the moment, not the wings, and that's looking pretty good. We've got sort of the base shapes in there. That's looking nice, and we can always tweak these. So, you know, I might think, the chest needs to come out a bit more. I'm just going to move this, and like I say, don't be worried about moving it left to right because it is actually locked, or you can go to a side view and just move this into position. So what you want to think about is where your control is going to be and where it's going to bend and rotate. Okay, so I'm just going to go back into a side view. I'm going to sort this head out now. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go out of that mode, and I'm going to put that where I want the jaw to rotate. So it's up here. I'm going to move the end right out here. It's a really long joint that's just going to open and close the mouth. I'm going to move the head up because at the moment we've got we're going to be covered in feathers here, which gives it a lot more width. Let's just move this, hit the D key here, and then you've got the eye joint. So what we want to do is we want to move the eye joint out, just move it out a little bit so you can see what you're doing. And then I'm going to go to a wireframe, and you want to get this right in the middle of the eye. So let's go to a side view, and I will go to a wireframe, and I would just sort of position this. Let's have a look. Can we select the eye? I've got this on reference at the moment, so I'm just going to select the eyeball so you can see what you've got here. And then you want to get this sort of dead in the center, really. Let's have a little look. Go back to perspective, and then I might go to my top view. Let's go into this. So I'm always jumping views, you can see. So what you want, it really is this right in the middle, so that you can, when you select the eyeball and it rotates, you've got it right in the middle. So you could just eyeball it, no pun intended, or if, you know, that's probably good enough. But if you want to get it dead in the center, there's a few things we could do. So we can go out to a perspective view, and let's sort of, let's select our eyeball and just isolate it again. So just go show, isolate selected, and view selected. And then what you can see is that the pivot point's been reset to the world zero. Do you remember when we were cleaning the geometry? So we cannot get the center of this eyeball. So what you could do is there's a few ways you could do this. You could just duplicate the eye, so we've got another copy, and what I've done is I've hovered over here and hit the F key to zoom in it. It's the same as if I select here and I hit the F key, we zoom in. We can do it, say if we've got something else selected, I could select the geometry here and go over here, and if it's say closed, I can hit the F key and it will focus on it, and then I'm going to middle mouse drag it out. So we've got it out. So we've now got a copy, and we can center the pivot on that. So we can go modify center pivot, and now we've got a duplicate, but the center point is brought back into the center. Okay, so now from here you could either create a locator and snap it into place, or you could say select the make sure we've got the duplicate selected, go up to display, transform display, and then local rotation axis, and you see what it's produced. It's shown you this tiny marker in here, and that's the exact center of the point here. So I'm going to bring back the other items, isolate selected. I don't want to be able to select geometry, so you can either hit the reference key here, or you can also use the button up here where it's object select, so you can deselect geometry. Now I can't select any geometry at all. So from here you can get the actual joint and you can actually move it into place. So you can actually sort of say, hit the F key, zoom right in, and then sort of try and match it up to the exact point. You see it here? There we go. Or you can simply hide some of the other geometry if you want, but you can use the V key, what's called point snapping. So select your joint, hold down the V key, and then just middle mouse and just drag a little bit, and you see it snaps exactly into place. And now that eye is exactly in the center. And then you can simply hide or delete the duplicate, so you can go Control H or just delete it. You don't really need it, or if you want to keep it, that's fine. So that's a little trick. There's a few ways of getting the exact center of the eye to do that. Now let's just finally sort the wing joints out. So let's just go to a top view, and you can see what it's done is it's the joints go out really far at the moment, and the hummingbird arm ends here. This is not to go down the feathers, but this is the actual arm. So you want to move these in. So let's move these right in. Here, here, and here, and it depends where you want your bends as well. So I'm going to move this joint back, and I'm going to go to a perspective view as well. So let's just open up this. I'm going to go change to world, and I'm going to move this back. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of a bend in here. You can see this better in the front view actually, and that's because normal birds do sort of bend their arms with their wings up and down this way. Hummingbirds don't really do that very much. So I'm going to select this joint, hit the D key, and let's just move this up into place. Now, the clavicle, this needs to be further in because this rotates from inside, and this is the shoulder. So it takes a bit of practice just where you want to place your joints. But I would say sort of in here, imagine this moving sort of the flesh around here. This is not the shoulder joint. This is the clavicle, the scapula, if you want to call it. And let's move the shoulder over. So that should be right in the crease where you want the rotations to go. So right along here. And I'm going to move these a bit along. And now it just depends how big your arms are and where you want the bends. So I'm just going to, and don't forget, that's the beauty about Advanced Skeleton. You can edit these as much as you want. You can go back to toggle view, which I'll show you in a minute. So let's have a little look at that in a top view. 5, I'm going to go to my X-ray joints. As you can see, this needs moving back. So I'm going to move this back, move the joint into place, and then move all of these forward. That's looking a lot better. Here we go. Let's go to perspective, see what we've got. And that's looking much better. So now we've got all the base joints in place so far. I'm going to come back and add toe joints in, but what I like to do here, I like to save a version without even running Advanced Skeleton and keep it. I don't know why, maybe it's a bit of OCD, but I think it's cool to keep it fresh. So you go up to File and then Save Scene As, and go into your folder wherever you've got it. I've got Creature Rigs, Hummingbird, and I like to call this rig version 1. So Hummingbird, and then underscore rig, and then whatever you want to call it. I don't know how many versions you've got, but I like to add 2 zeros in front. So now I've got this saved just as the template. I haven't run anything yet, and then I might save that as version 2. So this is our base joints. You can see them, everything's sort of neatly in place, and then we can just do a little test run before we go back and start adding in the extra joints, because we're going to add in toe joints, and then obviously need the wing joints, and then I'll show you a special way of getting a really cool system for the tail and the wing controls. Okay, so let's give a test build. So come all the way down to your build menu here, hit build advanced skeleton, and it's going to run through, it's going to do it pretty quickly as you can see, and put all the joints in place on the other side and all the controllers. You can see it did it really quickly, so the more we add, the longer it will take to build, but it's still pretty quick. Now straight off the bat, you can see that some of these controllers are pretty large, so advanced skeleton has a really good toolkit for editing the curves, the size, the colors and everything. So let's have a play. What I like to do is I like to just test, see how things are moving, where they're positioned, and if we need to make any edits. So I'm going to hit the E key to rotate, and you can see this is all moving nicely here. It's actually rotating forward a bit though at an angle, so we can actually go in and change the rotation. I can show you to do that if you want to get it to go up and down instead. Let's grab the main root controller. It's this one down here, this one here. I'm going to hit the 4 key so you can see it in wireframe, and then W to move. You can see that's all moving really nicely. You can sort of rotate the body around. Let's have a look at the bum area. I'm just going to turn off poly selection so we don't select the geometry, and I'm going to sort of rotate this. You can see that's working really nicely, but I would like an extra joint in here. I am going to show you a way how to go in and resample to add in more joints if we need exactly in the center or as many as you need using another tool in Advanced Skeleton. You can see here we're going to need more joints in the tail. We're going to add all the wing joints later in the next step. We're going to do all that separately. Let's have a look. So you've got a cool little hip swinger here if you want to make your bird dance. And let's have a look. So I want to see how the head's rotating. So let's grab the head joint, and you can see how it would rotate. I think we may be able to move this down slightly down to the neck of it as well. You do have this neck controller inside as well. It's a little bit small. Again, we can move that up. So again, maybe we should move that down. Let's select the chest controller. I'm going to go back to a shaded view, so I like to see it easier. Yeah, that's working quite well. Okay, so that's working really well. So you've also got IK controllers that switch between IK and FK. So at the moment the legs are in IK mode, which means you can pick it up and it works the rest of it out for you. You've got your pole vectors here, so you can move the knees in and out. But if you select these little crosses, there's one for the body as well. I like the body in IK mode, to be honest, as well. Go over to here, your FK IK blend, drag that down to 0, and you can see the controls change. The one on the foot disappears, and you're now left with FK controllers, so you can simply rotate. Okay, so I'm going to go back out to a full IK mode, put that back to 10. And then you get your foot controls back. And on here you do have all these other options as well. So imagine you've got like a human biped character. You would want to be able to do the foot roll, which you can do with the bird or a quadruped, anything like that as well. You can swivel. You've also got anti-stretch and all these sorts of things we can talk about later. Yeah, so all in all, the rig is working pretty well as a base standard. You want to check how the clavicle and shoulders are rotating. So you can imagine sort of the flesh moving in here would be good. And then you've got your main rotational cuff here from the actual shoulder joint. This will be our beak that opens up and down. We can add in a facial rig later, so we'll do that. Yes, that's pretty good. So from here, you can either open up your original file. It's good to save your original file, which just hasn't been run yet. Maybe a bit of OCD by me, but it's always good to have a backup that you can go back to in case something goes wrong. But the really good thing about Advanced Skeleton is at any point you can now hit this toggle advanced fit button here, and it takes you back into template mode, and you can make changes, add joints in, change position, rotation, and then just hit rebuild, and you can see it going through there, analyzing, and it rebuilds again. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using as we go through, sometimes maybe reopening the file, but this is absolutely brilliant with Advanced Skeleton, that you can just go in, make changes, and then rebuild again. It's just awesome. And then and one more thing I'd like to show you, if you go into toggle fit advanced, if you hit delete Advanced Skeleton here, you will delete the whole thing and be left back with this template, so you can get back to your raw file. So that's it. So the test build's gone well, and yeah, so we're going to move on to the next stage, where we're going to actually build the wing joints, which is a bit more complex. We're going to add really nice controls on the back so that we can go up and down with them as well. And yeah, let's crack on. So that's the end of part 1. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Stick around for part 2. We're going to move on to the wings. We're going to create some really nice controls on the backs of the wings to create the nice feathers. Now, if you like what you've done so far, if you can give us a like or a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.